things are getting real when Monique speaks up. And this time, she's not holding back. After years of calling out Tyler Perry for what she described as shady, behind-the-scenes behavior, she just responded to the leaked text messages that the internet can't stop talking about. And if you thought this was just another Hollywood drama, think again. We're talking lawsuits, unexpected receipts, emotional texts, and a billionaire image that may never recover. The internet's officially torn in half. Some people think this is karma finally catching up. Others say it's just a big misunderstanding gone viral. But one thing's for sure. This story has layers, and we're breaking down every last one.
You're sleeping off Hennessy in his guest room because he says it's safe. Because I know I'm bad, so I'm after a big party. Won't say what type. You spaz out, push him out, like what the get ready to leave. He apologizes, blame it on the alcohol. And you try to forgive him. So you're like, all right, man, all right, I'm gone. You shake his hand on the way out, and he tries to grab you. He tries to shake and grab your equipment, and you spaz even more. Like, what the f*** you doing, man? What the f***? Oh, my bad. So you go to leave, he tries to do it again. Now, at that point, my only regret is not breaking multiple bones in this person's face.
You ever have one of those moments where you see a headline and think, wait, what? That's exactly what happened when word hit the internet that Tyler Perry, the billionaire mogul with the clean image and megachurch vibes, was being hit with a massive lawsuit. And we're not talking petty stuff. We're talking big league accusations from an actor named Derek Dixon, who's now front and center in what's quickly becoming one of the wildest celebrity sagas of the year. According to Derek, this wasn't just about a role gone wrong or a contract dispute. He claims he was promised the world, only to find himself in a whirlwind of power plays and uncomfortable moments that he says went way past the industry norm. It started with a promise that every aspiring actor dreams of. Tyler himself allegedly told Derek he could be the next big star, offered him access, visibility, a path to fame. Classic Hollywood move, right? But now Derek's pulling back the curtain and saying the situation was anything but glamorous. He says the doors that opened weren't what they seemed, and that behind all the lights and cameras, something felt off from the jump. What's even crazier, he's not just talking, he's bringing receipts. The kind of evidence that's got people online rethinking everything they thought they knew about one of the most powerful figures in entertainment. But as the story unfolds, it's clear this goes way deeper than a single lawsuit. It's tapping into something a lot of folks in the industry whisper about, but rarely say out loud.
Doing these PR stunts, oh, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that and I'm gonna do that. Well, then speak on, if you gonna have classes of HBCUs after this sketchy shit, wanna air him out too. I'm just tired of carrying this with me. I'm tired.
So here's where it gets even more interesting. Because Derek's story doesn't start in a courtroom. It starts at a Hollywood event back in 2019, the kind where everyone's trying to network, smile, and land their big break. According to Derek, that's exactly what he thought was happening when Tyler Perry, yes, the Tyler Perry, walked up to him, introduced himself, and said he might have something for us to him. Imagine being in Derek's shoes for a second. Young, ambitious, grinding in the industry, and suddenly one of the biggest names in film and television tells you he sees potential in you. That's not just a moment, that's the moment. And Tyler did follow through, at least at first. Derek landed a small role in the series Ruthless, and even though it was just a couple of episodes, he figured this was just the beginning. A foot in the door, right? But as time went on, he started to notice something odd. The communication didn't feel purely professional anymore, and the roles he was being offered seemed to come with strings. Emotional ones, unclear ones. Derek stayed close, hoping to build his career, but behind the scenes, he says things felt more personal than they should have. And while he tried to keep it all respectful, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Opportunities would pop up out of nowhere, then disappear just as fast. The vibe started shifting from mentorship to something murkier, and that's when Derek realized this wasn't the dream he thought it was. And honestly, this is the part where the story takes a serious left turn.
Right?
And he said, I can see the pain in you and I can hear it. And I want to let you know that I would never do nothing to hurt you. But the conversation kept going on. Only for Tyler Perry to admit he did start a rumor that I was difficult to work with. He lied.
Now, fast forward a few months later, and this is where things start getting blurry in all the worst ways. Derek says Tyler invited him over to his Atlanta mansion. On the surface, nothing unusual. After all, industry folks network like this all the time, right? Private meetings, one-on-one creative talks, building trust. It's all part of the game. So Derek goes, thinking maybe this is the next step in solidifying his place in that circle. But according to him, the energy that night was just different. He says it started off casual, good conversation, even a few drinks. But as the night went on, something about the whole interaction felt less like business and more like a test. Not dramatic at first, just little things. A comment here, a strange vibe there. But it was enough to make him uncomfortable. Still, he stayed polite, didn't want to blow his shot or misread the situation. He says he ended up crashing in one of the guest rooms, just thinking it was a late night and safer than driving home. But the next morning, things weren't the same. The tone shifted. And according to Derek, that was the moment he realized this wasn't going to be a regular mentorship at all. The tension wasn't about work anymore. It felt like something entirely different was being implied. And here's the kicker. Even after Derek tried to brush it off and keep things focused on his career, the offers didn't stop. In fact, they got bigger. Suddenly, he's cast in The Oval, with a more prominent role, and now he's wondering, was it his talent or something else that kept those doors opening? The whole thing started to feel like a strange game, one where the rules kept changing, and Derek was just trying to keep up.
You don't worry about cancel culture, huh?
Huh? Why would you cancel things that are great for the culture?
Right.
Like, I mean, like, I was like canceled, like Monique. Why is she canceled?
Mm-hmm.
I had to revisit that because it was like, it didn't make sense to me, babe. I'm like, so what did she do? She said something you didn't like? Like, so she didn't work for 13 years after that?
Right.
And then I know Tyler wouldn't support that. He never told nobody not to work with her.
Tyler Perry?
Yeah. When I talked to him, he was like, I never told no one not to work with her. And I said, but you Tyler Perry, and you never told anyone to work with her.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And he was like, I never looked at it like that. Because I said, you just got to consider how strong your influence is at that point, because it hasn't happened.
Like, you say some things that I get scared of.
This is the point where everything spilled out onto the internet, and it wasn't just whispers anymore. Derek didn't just talk about what happened. He came with screenshots, messages, full-blown conversations that had social media spinning. And not just because of what was being said, but how it was being said. The tone in the texts was unexpected, emotional, intense, and sometimes oddly casual for the situation. There were messages about religious guilt, therapy, and letting go of personal blocks. One text even asked something like, "What would it take for you to feel totally free?" Now, on paper, that might sound harmless, but paired with the timing and context, it raised a lot of eyebrows. Then came mentions of emotional struggles, late-night moods, and compliments that felt way more personal than professional. One line talked about missing out on the best years of your life if you keep holding back. Another message described Derek as so beautiful that he could make someone go crazy once he unlocked his potential. People online were like, hold up, this is way more than just a casting convo. And that wasn't even the wildest part. Tyler allegedly made references to being jealous over a photo shoot Derek did with another guy, said he wished it was him in front of the camera instead. So now fans were doing deep dives, screen recording, analyzing every word and asking the same question. Was this a mentorship or something way more tangled? And just like that, the public opinion started to split, with some folks convinced Derek was onto something big, and others thinking maybe he was just reading too far into it. But either way, the story was out there, and it was only gaining steam. Just when the story was starting to settle into a he said spiral, a new name popped up. And suddenly, this wasn't just about Derek anymore. Fans started digging, connecting dots, and out came the story of actor Christian Keys, someone who'd worked with Tyler in the past, and, interestingly enough, had once shared his own uncomfortable Hollywood experience. Now, Christian never dropped names directly, but in a live stream from the year before, he talked about a powerful figure in the industry, a man with influence, a spotless public image, and connections everywhere. Christian said this person tried to get close to him in a way that didn't feel right, and that it all started at, a house party. He said he was offered one too many drinks, the atmosphere got weird, and that things got so uncomfortable, he had to set a hard boundary just to walk away. At the time, nobody really knew who he was talking about. But now, with Derek's story gaining traction, the puzzle pieces started to look eerily similar. Fans online were like, wait a minute, is this the same guy? Add to that the detail Christian gave about the man being seen as a philanthropist, someone who gives back to the community and supports the culture, and suddenly the internet couldn't help but speculate. Because let's be real, how many billionaires in entertainment check all those boxes and also happen to be tied to both these actors? It wasn't confirmation, but it was enough to stir the pot. And just like that, the narrative stopped being about one person's story and started to look like a pattern. Now, if there's one person who didn't look surprised when all of this came out, it was Monique. Yep, that Monique. The Oscar-winning actress who's been calling out Hollywood double standards for over a decade. And let's be real, she's had Tyler Perry's name in her mouth long before this lawsuit ever surfaced. See, way back when Monique was getting labeled as difficult in the industry, she said it wasn't just bad press. It was personal. According to her, Tyler was one of the people behind the scenes pulling strings and making sure she didn't get work after she refused to promote a film for free. She even claimed he admitted to what he did during a private phone call, but never gave her a real apology. So now, watching everything that's going down with Derek, she's not exactly rushing to defend Tyler. In fact, word is, she sees it as a little something called karma. And she's not the only one. Some fans are saying this whole situation is what happens when you build a brand on positivity and faith. But don't keep that same energy behind closed doors. Others are saying Monique warned us, years ago, loudly, and nobody listened. But now that the internet is revisiting her interviews, her comments, even the moments where people called her bitter or ungrateful, suddenly it's all hitting different. Whether you believe Derek or not, one thing's clear. This situation has people re-examining a lot of past moments. And Monique might have just been ahead of the curve the whole time. So now here we are. Tyler Perry, the man who built an empire off uplifting messages, faith-based themes, and feel-good stories, is suddenly under a microscope like never before. And it's not just about one situation or one person anymore. Fans are looking at everything with new eyes. Old interviews, red carpet clips, even the kinds of roles he's written in his shows. It's all getting reanalyzed. And whether you're Team Derek, Team Tyler, or just watching from the sidelines with popcorn, there's no denying the shift. The public's perception of Tyler as this untouchable, universally loved mogul, it's not as solid as it used to be. His team came out swinging, of course, calling the lawsuit a total setup and saying Tyler won't be shaken down. But that didn't stop people from talking. Some believe Derek is just chasing attention or a payday, while others are convinced that where there's smoke, there's fire. And this might be the tip of something bigger. The most unsettling part? The emotional undertones in those messages. Not just the compliments or weird timing, but the control vibes. Telling Derek not to let the cast know they were close. Saying things like, "When we go back to work, I don't know you." To a lot of people, that felt less like mentorship and more like a message with layers. Professional boundaries? Sure. But combine that with all the other puzzle pieces, and fans are starting to ask the real question. Was this about building careers or managing reputations? Now that everything's out in the open, texts, stories, statements, it's clear this isn't just a scandal, it's a moment. A moment where people are finally questioning how much we really know about the people we put on pedestals. Tyler Perry has spent decades building a brand that feels bulletproof. Family-friendly movies, empowerment messages, massive studio deals. But when something like this hits, it forces a pause. Suddenly, the clean image isn't enough. People want answers. They want transparency. And most of all, they want the truth. Derek says he's not backing down. And with a $260 million lawsuit in motion, this story is far from over. Meanwhile, fans are split. Some are holding on to the Tyler they thought they knew. Others are revisiting old receipts and saying this might have been a long time coming. Either way, one thing's for sure. This situation cracked open a conversation that can't be ignored. Not just about one person or one case, but about power, influence, and how hard it can be to speak up when the spotlight's pointed the other way. And whether Tyler ends up cleared or called out, the internet's already changed the narrative. Because now, when his name trends, it's not just about success stories. It's about the story behind the success. And you've got to ask yourself, what else might be hiding behind those polished public images? If you made it this far, you're definitely not just here for the headlines. You're here for the real story. So drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this is all a big misunderstanding? Or is there something deeper going on behind the scenes? And if you're into unpacking the truth behind the fame, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell. Because trust me, what's coming next? It's even messier. You don't want to miss it.